Hello, and welcome to Storybridge. I'm your host, Patty Lucia. I'm a teacher and author, and I want to help you use the power of story for personal growth and healing. Every week, my guests and I share stories on a range of topics based on current commemorative days. In the following episode, Jacque and Juanique share their story of motherhood. I want to thank you for wanting to share your motherhood story, because I have certainly been inspired by it right from the beginning. And so I think that it will inspire anyone who hears it. And I'm sure it's already inspired anyone who has heard it or has seen you guys about town or on social media. It's an inspirational motherhood story. So how did it begin?
You know, when Juanique was pregnant, we had people say, were you guys surprised? We're like, no, not surprised at all. This was planned.
So of course, when we met, we knew we both wanted kids, and we knew that obviously there's going to be challenges, or there could be challenges, and there's so much pressure and stress and anxiety put around this because, you know, we kind of get one shot a month and that's it. So so we chose we looked for a donor that had Jackie's features and coloring, her hair and things like that. And we used the California Cryobank. And so once we had decided, we just had to, order it in time for my ovulation. We did it at home, actually. We had no reason to believe I would have issues. And so we did it at home, and I felt pregnant, and I knew the very next day. My breasts were already extremely sensitive. I had so many different side effects already.
Wow.
Yeah. Most people do this process by going to the doctor, even if they're young. But even our doctor couldn't even believe that we did this at home, because it's just one sperm comes at your door through the UPS guy and delivers it in a box that says sperm, sperm, sperm. So it's quite funny answering the door to that. And it was actually very nerve-wracking because, it's quite expensive, and we just had one shot to do it.
You try to take all the supplements and eat well for a little while before
but also,
doing it so you have your best shot.
But also the app. We had an app that she would follow,
your cycle and your ovulation.
And those are amazing today. Like,
so precise.
Follow, and it tells you it's so precise, and it tells you exactly when you should be doing this, when, and so that's amazing to me that exists today. So it's so easy, not easy, but less stressful, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, all of the precision. Now it had to be brought up to a certain temperature, right? Because it's frozen.
Right. They just say if you leave it in room temperature for, I forget, to be honest, the time, but it arrives in dry ice and can stay like that for 5 days.
And it's literally like this big, but it comes in like this huge scuba tank to your door. It was quite an experience. I mean, I feel like we were just blessed, and we were just so lucky to have, one sperm, one try, did it at home. I just feel like it was just meant to be. I mean, we wanted it so bad that I think that, the universe just made it happen.
It made it happen. Yeah.
Because Juanique, just like she said, she knew hours later that her breasts were hurting, and she's like, I'm pregnant. But we had to wait 2 weeks to take the test to see if she was.
Crazy thing, we waited 13 and a half days, and we took a test, and it denies, says no. And 12 hours later, it says you're positive.
Because they always tell you to wait 2 weeks. That's how accurate that is, too.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's crazy, right?
So hours too early could just, So we did that, and we were like, oh, and I'm like, Jackie, it's impossible. I can feel my whole body is different already. So fast forward 9 months, and Kai arrived.
Yeah. And if she was a boy or a girl, we were going to name her Kai. For 2 months, we believed it was a boy. And then one day we went in for an ultrasound, and the lady goes, wow, what a beautiful little girl. And we're like, looked at each other, and we had the biggest smiles. It didn't matter if it was a boy or girl, but we just had the biggest smiles. It was just crazy. I can just remember it, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Just want a healthy baby.
What was birth like? The whole birth process? Did you do Did you do it traditionally, or did you guys decide you wanted to do it another way?
So our gynecologist said that no matter what, you can tell I'm going to have to be induced. And of course, I didn't really believe her. I was adamant to do everything natural. And so we did massages. We went for crazy long walks every single day. I mean, you do things, massage your calves, which can make you miscarriage normally, or just go into labor. Nothing worked. And so she was a week past due, actually. So I waited till the due date, still nothing. And I'm like adamant she's got to come, right? But for 3 days prior to her birth date, I was in contractions for every 12 minutes, 24/7. So I wasn't sleeping, but I was so tired. And on July 4th, we went to the hospital for I don't know how many times. I swear we were there like 7 times. We're like, no, I've got to be in labor. It just has to be today.
Right.
They're like, nope.
Go
So
back
July
home.
4th, they were like, well, you have an appointment scheduled for tomorrow. Do you want to go home? And I said, no, just check me in already. I'm done. So they had to induce me with Cervidil. And after 12 hours, I was 1 centimeter dilated. And then they did Pitocin through the IV. And after 4 hours of that, I was in too much pain and hadn't slept, and I was exhausted. And I asked for a epidural, which they gave me at 7 a.m. and I slept till 11. So I woke up at 11 and they said, oh, you're 10 centimeters dilated. I said, okay, let's, get the show on the road here. The nurse was like, oh, you're going to do great. It's not much pushing, less than an hour, everything will be good. I'm like, okay. So 12 o'clock, I start pushing. Nothing happens. So they're like, okay, we don't want you to get exhausted. So just rest for an hour. We'll position you in a way that you can move down the canal. So an hour goes by, nothing happens. Then I pushed for 5 more hours.
Wow.
And she just wouldn't move. And they said she's not crowning yet, so we can't get the doctor in. And I said, well, it's been hours now. So if nothing's changed, something has to be changed. Get the doctor in to see what we need to do. But after pushing an hour, resting an hour, the second hour I started pushing, the epidural was reversing the contraction. So they just turned that off for the last, 5.5 hours. They kept checking the heart rates. Whenever I pushed, hers would spike and then drop back down. And out of the 6.5 hours total that I pushed, not once did her heart rate even, blink. It was just consistent. And I feel like they kept watching that because if anything did go wrong or she went into distress, they would just say, C-section.
Right.
So doctor knew that I didn't want to do that. So she comes in, she's getting the little vacuum thing ready. She goes, Juanique, this is it, right? You got one more push and that's it. I said, okay. For the last half an hour, they told me to stop pushing, but my body was just spasming. So I was just, every time there's a contraction, my body was naturally just trying to push the baby out at that point. And they were saying, don't push. And I said, I can't. So, I forgot. By that time, I remember, Jackie, we had a heat pack, which I had her heat and put behind my back. And I feel like that relaxed my muscles to a degree. Anyways, doctor came in and Kai flew right out. Don't know what she did, but she came right out and they put on my chest and they're like, oh, she's all right. I said, is she breathing? And they look and they're like, well, she's working on it. And they start smacking her little butt.
Yeah, it was quite an experience. Yeah. We stayed for the whole 3 days. We didn't let anybody else in because I couldn't even imagine so many people let other people in, like, visitors and family. But it was such a stressful time and it's so private. We just stayed there alone for 3 days and then we brought her home. And then both of us were afraid to drive with her in the car. And it's so funny, drive every single day, but this little baby's in your backseat and you're just like, I don't want to drive.
It's precious cargo. It's in the
it changes your whole entire life.
Well, so let's look at that. How has your life changed in motherhood? What's that been like?
It's been amazing.
It's been amazing.
For me, it just brings you back to your childhood again. We get up and laugh every day at her and we're goofy again. And she has such a sense of humor. She's a big jokester. So she's just trying to make us laugh all the time. And that's just crazy what she's going to be 3 in a couple months.
Yeah.
But she's just so, I'm sure every parent says their kid is so smart, but you're just like, wow. can't even believe that she's doing that,
Have there been challenges because you're two women having and raising a child?
No, we've never experienced it yet.
Yeah, we just don't pay attention
We just,
to it.
I mean, and she's learned from the very beginning that all families are different. She has two mummies. We've read her books.
Mhm.
Kai also goes to school. She's been going to school since she was 2 when we opened up our business. She tells everybody she has two mummies and she's proud of it. And
Mhm.
just at Mother's Day last week, they made sure that she made 2 cards for us. I mean,
That's
it's just,
beautiful.
it is so beautiful because Patty, 20 years ago, this would never have happened, or
No.
you'd feel bad for, your child's going to get made fun of or something like that.
Mm.
But today we're experiencing that Kai's very proud that she has 2 moms. She lets everybody know, I have 2 mummies, and
Mhm.
just everybody, nobody cares. It's really, really cool.
That's
Happy to
beautiful.
see that for my daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what about the grandparents?
Mom and dad are in their 80s and they just adore her. And the same with your parents
Yeah.
that are here.
My parents live close by, and I mean, thankfully they live close by. They just stop by on the way home for a few minutes. Otherwise, you really would never see each other. Everything is so busy. But no, everything's great. She has one of my brothers lives here, Ashton, and she just adores him. Saying I don't care what other people think is the wrong words. Not being concerned what other people think about you or judging you or. Okay, let's go fix it for you, okay? Break. Say hi, Patty.
Look at you.
Walked up and she goes,
Hi,
"Oh,
Kai."
Kai's 2 mommies right there."
I am so grateful for Kai to be able to be born at a time that it is fine. We've taught her that from the very beginning. Doesn't matter if you have 2 daddies, a mom and a dad. Yeah.
Yeah, the most important thing is love.
Absolutely.
What would you like to share with two mommy couples who are considering bringing a child into the world?
Well, I think if you're in a same-sex relationship, you already should have the confidence and believe in yourselves as well as a couple. If you don't have a strong foundation, obviously anything from the outside world will affect you, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. So, I mean, you should never really worry about what people think of you and how they judge you, because even if it's not about your relationship, it's about what you wear. It's about what it's about.
Sorry, Patty.
It's okay. It's no problem at all. I mean, we are talking about motherhood after all. Being moms now, how has that really either strengthened or challenged your primary relationship?
It was a strain on the relationship tremendously, and especially in the first year or 18 months. We came to realize that, naturally when you don't know each other as parents, you only know each other as partners, and individuals. And so you don't know what to expect, and you know what you would do as an individual. And then, she knows what she would do as an individual, and they're not the same. They're just not the same for whatever reason, right? So I spent a lot of time questioning what she did and how she did it. And it doesn't matter what I do in my life, that's what I do, because I want to be more efficient, more effective, and so on. And it used to offend her and make her feel like I was undermining her and, trying to control or telling her she's doing something wrong. But ultimately, I was just trying to give Kai the best shot in a way, or keep her the safest. So we realized once we did that, we would explain to each other why we did things. But I guess at the time we realized it was past that stage, but we just had to learn from that and realize we both want the best for Kai.
Yeah. And, it's funny because we have a good friends that are a straight couple or, traditional couple, man and a wife. They're saying to us the same thing. They have a newborn and they're fighting a lot, and it's true. First of all, it's very stressful because your whole life changes. You're not sleeping. You're up all the time.
The hormones are weird.
It's just, so I think everybody goes through this, probably the first year with their child, especially if it's your first, because everything has changed so much.
But we work together every day. We work together from home.
Right.
We lived together. There was no reason for us to be away from each other. And most couples, the person that gave birth stays home and the other one's going to work to support the family. And so I think that helped us progress past that stage tremendously quicker because we were with each other 24/7 and we had nowhere else to go. It's not like, screw you, you upset me today, I'm leaving the house.
Right. It's just a whole, it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah, I mean,
But now it's totally different. It's like everything is where it should be. It flows.
yeah, you know, Kai has many of the same habits we do and the same things we would do, and that's just from watching us and teaching her.
Yes.
And so you kind of get to the point where you don't have to tell her everything every step of the way. Plus, she's more independent. Yeah.
So that first year is really, for most parents, I guess, the learning curve, figuring out how to live into these new roles as both partners and parent.
Right. I think 2 years is to be safe. I mean, I think.
Yeah, if you can get through that, you're fine.
You're good.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, there was no sleeping at all. Right? I mean, you're just exhausted, you know?
And that has such a huge impact on everything. Being without sleep.
And patience. I was explaining again, my friend's little girl is 2 months old, and I was explaining how it's so important to be present with the child instead of getting up and, you know, having this list of things you're trying to accomplish and just shoving this little thing around the house because as if they don't exist, you know. And so Kai, compared to her friends, she took longer to crawl and then longer to walk. And she was also smaller than them. But her due date was June 28th and her birthday's July 5th. And we were out, Jackie's family had been in town, we went to dinner and we got home at 8, but Kai's bedtime is usually 5:30. So it was late, but we bathed her because we had been out. And we were dressing her in the bedroom, and usually it's bath and get dressed and go to bed. And she couldn't speak yet, but she was like mumbling something and pointing out towards the living room. And we're like, okay, well, this is weird. Let's just see what she wants. Now, normally, I think people would just say, no, it's bedtime, get into your crib, or we're putting you in your crib. But we knew she wanted something, and this is how she's always been. So the moment we walk into the living room, right next to Matisse's cage, she wants on the floor. So we put her on the floor, and she got up and she walked. She just got up, walked to her bedroom, went back on her knees, crawled to the crib, and wanted to get in. But that is because we were present with her and listening to her. We weren't, you know, just not even ignoring her, or we were tired and we just wanted to get the task done. You know, even bathing her at night, I don't try to rush it. I want her to enjoy it and play, go at her own pace. And even for her own self, you know, what's the next step? You know, the moment I pull the plug out, oh, it's cleanup time, mommy, you know. So just being present with them, and they're not an object, you know, they're part of your life and you should never treat them. When we had her, I, in my mind, agreed to never spending a moment without her as long as she's dependent on us. And many people don't. People are like, if I'm having this baby, I'm going to have at least a date night a week or a full day to myself a week. I mean, I don't know why you had kids.
Yeah, we've taken Kai.
I'll rent one.
Yeah, we've taken Kai with us from the very beginning. One week old. If we were going to a restaurant, we would take her with us. And she's always come everywhere with us.
And she also has her time at school.
Oh yeah, now she does.
Yeah.
Now she does, yeah.
If I have to work late, I'll still come home after school, spend a couple hours, put her to bed, and then go back to work, you know. So it's not her fault. We have a job and we have obligations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how.
But, you know, I have to say this. I think the best thing about being a parent is, you know, some of the things that you didn't like as a child growing up, you can change it all. And it's great therapy. So you just raise your child differently than maybe what you didn't like as a child.
You've changed some patterns that may have had a negative effect on you, but you're able to consciously change that pattern and do something completely different with your child. There's this wonderful thing for your child, but there's also kind of a healing that goes on for you in the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that always makes me happy and hopeful. parenting is something that generation to generation, people are working on their, how can I do things a little bit different? Or maybe if they had a wonderful childhood, it's like, I want to do things the way my parents did, or, oh God, I don't want to do things the way my
Right.
parents did. And then you have these other outside forces, who are supposedly the experts, and they write the books and they tell you how you should raise your children and discipline them. And a lot of times they're wrong. And you have to find your own path that's the best for you and your child.
Even each child is different. I mean, we hope to have more, and we think it's going to be as easy as Kai, but I'm sure that one's going to have its own personality.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, what the textbook says doesn't really go depending on their personality.
Did you want to add to that, Jackie?
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking in my head, like, so many people ask us about, like, okay, obviously I'm much older, having a child, and would have been better if you did it when you were younger. But for me, and we talk about this all the time, it's like, I just feel like we both have more patience. We both have more, I don't know, life is different when you get older, and you just appreciate so much more. And so I wouldn't have done it any other way. I love that I'm having children at my age because I appreciate every little second of her. And we spend so much time with her, and she's our world. I don't think I would have done it any other way.
I kind of like to look on the spiritual side of things, and I often think that people are brought together because their spirits wanted that, and they bring children into the world because the spirits of those little children were picking them for their parents. Did you think about that in your process?
What's funny is at the last minute when we were set on one donor, when we were ready to order it, it was gone. And so we knew when we had to order one immediately. And so it was just like, this one just popped, and I was insistent, this is it. And I was almost in my head so much happier that happened because I found this one. You know what I mean? And maybe that was all meant to be. I mean, because I couldn't even imagine any other child but Kai coming, to us.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I truly believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. So even in this quote unquote non-traditional way of bringing a child into the world, there is this hand of the universe in the choices and spirit and so forth. And that I find really beautiful too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. If you would like to share your story on Storybridge, or buy my collection of short stories, Wildflowers and Present Tenses, or if you'd like my help in writing your story, please visit my website, pattyluciawrites.com. Thanks for listening.